Hello, this is Nikki.
And this is Annabella.
And welcome to Hot Wampa. You're ready for a treat, boys.
This is Guy Trussell and you are listening to Hot Wampa.
Ciao, this is Carmela
and Paola from Rome.
You are listening to Hot Wampa.
From the Shire to your earpieces.
Hot Wampa. All you need to know sci-fi.
Hey guys, Amber here and you're listening to Hot Wampa.
Hello Wampers, Stephen Waterhouse here. Love the show.
Hello from science fiction author Lancer Kind. Tune your smart device to retransmit Hot Wampa for some truly deep commentary on science fiction cinema.
Hi, my name is Mihaela Jembei. I'm from Moldova and you're listening to Hot Wampa.
Attention! No Ewoks were harmed while making this episode of Hot Wampa. Oops.
Okay then, lot to go into this episode. Quite a bit for housekeeping, mate.
Yeah, lots going on.
Yeah.
Episode 48.
Yeah, soon be on the big 50. A note on that, we've just been discussing what we're going to do for our 50th anniversary on this podcast, haven't we?
Yeah.
And I think we kind of agreed that we're going to look to showcase Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense, like 40th anniversary as well, isn't it? So it'll be a good one to cover.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a bit of a Star Wars heavy episode. I mean, that's a month away at the moment as we're recording this, because obviously we'll have the Star Wars segment and then we'll be showcasing the Star Wars films. So it'll always be more like a special when it's in its outlay. It'll still have local news on it. But yeah, I mean, that's what we're going to do in a month's time for our 50th. If anybody's got Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope related content or input they want to send our way for our inclusion, even if it's your own reviews, your recollections of the movie, audio, send that our way to our email. Text, send it our way to our email. If it's audio, we'll put your voice into the show. Text, you have to listen to us reading it out in our own dulcet tones. But we're just putting it out there now. It's a month's notice to what we'll be doing there. And it gives you an opportunity if you want to partake to get involved, really, mate, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think it'd be really interesting if any of our listeners can come up with Easter eggs or facts that perhaps we don't know or other listeners don't know, because you know, it's such a long time ago this film was made. You'd have thought we'd uncovered everything. But I'm sure there's still facts and things that we don't know that, you know, people could tell us.
Oh, this movie will be heavy with little Easter eggs and little facts and little nuggets of information. But then if our listeners want to partake in that, let's, get your feedback into us. hot.wampa@yahoo.co.uk. Likewise, we monitor Twitter and Facebook. That tends to be where most of our feedback comes from. I guess it's convenient for people to use that platform. Leave comments on our Libsyn blog, hotwampa.libsyn.com. That's underused, which is a shame because it's a good looking resource and it's a lot of information and a lot of stuff that doesn't even get into the show does make it onto the blog. A variety of ways. So, how has A New Hope affected you? What was your first impressions the first time you saw it? For me, it was on terrestrial television at some time in the early 80s. Those sort of things, all around Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope. Start thinking about getting them into us, and if you want to be a part of the show, you can be.
I'll tell you what I would like to see, Dave. Some of our listeners coming up with their own trailer for A New Hope.
Well, that's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, something like we did for The Force Awakens.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about audio sense, something we could put into the show, but yeah, I mean, why don't they do that? I mean, I guess a lot of people, we're kind of geared up to do productions, aren't we? Which I guess a lot of people, they've kind of got bundled software packages and stuff like that, and it's a lot of investment and time and effort. But if anyone's got one or anyone wants to take that challenge, by all means, and we'll have a look at it. Actually, I guess we could say, if anyone wants to guest on that showcase when we're talking about A New Hope, let us know now. Yeah. If you've got a half decent headset or microphone, headphones with Skype, you can be on the show.
Get involved.
Yeah, we'll put it out there. That's what the conversation will be. It's an open invite. Obviously, we can only accept so many people on that. Otherwise, it's like a riot.
Yeah, it's difficult with 3, isn't it? Or 4. It's to find out who's going to speak next. Like when we're interviewing someone, it's difficult to be courteous, isn't it? And sort of wait for the person to finish or start again.
It is, and the more people you have in the chain, the more chances there is of things going wrong. You know, somebody might be on their Skype or whatever whilst they're getting burgled at the same time or something. You know, or they get a sofa delivered.
Yeah, that was me last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, we'll get to that. There's a story about that. So yeah, I mean, and I think we found out ourselves when we did a little Rogue One special. And how many of us were there on that? There was you, me, Chris, Timothy, Chris and Nelson. There was a good number of us. And I think, you know, to have a forum like that with too many people, it's quite difficult to manage. But, you know, if anyone wants to be involved in the show, get in touch. First come, first served, I think, is really on that one. And you can guest on an episode. And that's how we'll do it. Feedback. Anyway, a week ago, we released our conversation with Tony Buckingham, who's the leader of the East Anglian UFO group. We got some feedback on that one from Hot Wampa listener Stephen Martin. Now, this came into us on the 7th of the 6th, 2017. And Stephen, I have truncated and edited Stephen's words here. Stephen will know what I'm talking about. Stephen just listened to the latest podcast with Tony Buckingham. Did Mark fall asleep? Didn't say much. Anyway, good podcast again. Something different. It's not so much that Mark fell asleep, Stephen. What happened was sort of 20, 30 minutes in, Mark had a sofa delivered. So he had to kind of, because we're such professionals on this show. So Mark kind of had to bail out temporarily. And because obviously Tony's time is limited, the same as anyone we have in interview, you know, we've got to be respectful. So I carried on interviewing Tony whilst Mark was doing this, and I think Mark kind of missed some of the momentum and the inertia in the interview and the conversation. By the time he came back in, he kind of had to hop back in. So that's kind of what happened there. It's kind of one of them real life getting in the way things, wasn't it, mate? I mean... Yeah,
it was. I mean, I went up to the Minster Tavern early in the morning and I was watching the rugby on television. And it wasn't really the rugby, it was the option of having a fry up in the pub early in the morning. So that was more important to me than the sport. So then I realised I had to come home, and they never confirm what time they're going to deliver, do they? They just sort of give you approximate between these hours.
Yeah, so 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. or something, so you waste a whole day.
So I was just praying that it wasn't going to be while we were interviewing Tony. But obviously it did, and Dave's edited some parts out of that interview, I believe. So thanks to Dave for that. And it turned out all right. I also had a bit of a cold, so I didn't want to speak too much. Fear of either sneezing or coughing.
Yeah. The thing is, I think a lot of listeners don't realise is that these kind of bloopers do happen during the recording process, but obviously I'll cut it out and do my best I can to polish it up in post-production. And I think for the most part, we get away with it. We tend to run fairly seamlessly and people don't notice it. But one thing I've been doing in the last few episodes is, I mean, obviously when we've recorded shows, I've recorded everything. So those little snippets are on my hard drive. I've been thinking about at some point in the future, but, you know, it will be all right on the night type thing. You've been framed, but in podcast form. So whenever we've had bloopers, sort of our outtakes, I've been saving them away. So obviously the incident where Mark had his sofas sorted out during the interview, I've got it recorded. And like I said, I was going to release it in a future bloopers episode, but as it pertains to this, I think I'll stick it in here for you guys to listen to.
Of course, they're lights. They can almost appear to be like a UFO of some sort. There's the planets in our solar system. Do you want a break there?
Yeah, I've got a break, guys. 1 minute.
All right. Who's disappeared? Is that you, Mark, or is that
That's
Dave?
Mark.
Okay.
It's probably his sofa turning up, Tony. Sorry about that. Don't worry about that. Little things like this, we can clean it up, and little bits like this, we'll edit out prior to.
Basically, these two here.
Yeah.
So just take
these
5.
Two,
Well, I must admit it's a first.
Well, I did say it'd be a bit informal, Tony.
That's okay.
But
That's fine.
I mean, hopefully. There you go. Tony did say in all the interviews he's had, it's never happened to him before. It's been broken by a sofa delivery. So that's the story of there why Mark fell asleep. But all the same, great to get some feedback from you, Stephen. It's nice to have. I mean, Stephen's quite heavy on his interaction with us, and we're grateful for him for that because you know, it's in a way it's like saying thank you to us, isn't it? We're putting it out there, people are commenting on what we're doing, and then we know we've got listeners and that people are enjoying the show.
Well, he always pops over and has a chat with me when I see him down the Minster on a Thursday evening.
Yeah.
Because we do the quiz, and he's on an opposing team called the Kovani Taliban, and the Kovani Taliban probably win 2 out of 3 quizzes, so it's always a bit competitive.
Well, they're a bit of an elite quiz team, are they?
Yeah, but I don't know. I think Steve Martin's there just to get the drinks. I'm not sure if he's very, very good when it comes to answering any questions.
He's there for the social aspect.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So that's what happened to there, Stephen. But thanks for the feedback. We always appreciate it. And just like with Stephen, any other listener wants to send their thoughts and things our way, and we can include that in the show. Okay. We've got another story here that doesn't kind of fit into the segments in the rest of the show, but we've kind of pre-arranged to we'll discuss it in housekeeping because I think it's something that we need to cover. It's too good a story to let slide, I think, mate, haven't we?
Yeah, this story, I mean, you couldn't really invent it because two of your favourite characters from the 80s basically got involved together, didn't they? So
Cue the music.
Okay, so we've got our favourite, the Incredible Hulk, Lou Ferrigno, and Flash Gordon himself, Sam Jones. Was it Sam J. Jones? They were at a Comic Con, a London Comic Con, and for some reason they sort of squared up to each other at a table. And Sam Jones is quite a big, muscular guy. I mean, you'd have thought Lou Ferrigno would tower over him, but apparently Lou decided that Sam Jones was trying to wind him up and provocate him, and he went over sort of and tried to intervene, and fans had to actually step in to separate them. So
yeah. What did he walk? Did he walk over and say, "You won't like it when I'm angry"?
You wouldn't want to get Lou angry. I mean, this goes back to, from my point of view, I was at Milton Keynes Milton Keynes Comic Con. It was about 4 or 5 years ago. And Lou was there, and I remember that a security lady was on the radio, and she said, "We've got to get some more people down here because Lou's getting angry." So he's got history here. Well, I don't know what Sam Jones was actually saying to him, but obviously he's trying to prompt him to get a bit mad. So childhood favourites going up against each other.
Yeah, this is a bit like what it used to be, Celebrity Deathmatch, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's a story here about how this happened. I wonder who would win it. I mean, Sam Jones, slightly the younger man, I should imagine, possibly slightly physically larger. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the picture, there's a picture that we put on our Hot Wampa page where Sam Jones is sitting down and sort of Lou Ferrigno's pointing his fingers at him. A quote here said from the Comic Con, Lou was just saying, "You're winding me up." There was a lot of finger jabbing, and it was getting pretty nasty.
Oh dear. I mean, I worked with a young lady, Jess, who went down to this particular Comic Con, and when I spoke to her about this, because I thought, well, once she told me about it, once she put it on our Facebook, I thought, I've got to ask her, because I knew she was going down for it. So I asked her about it, and she was obviously aware that the two gentlemen were guesting at this Comic Con, and she saw them there, but she didn't witness the altercation or had no information about the altercation, so she wasn't too sure about it. It was a bit of a surprise for her when I told her about it, and she started laughing herself.
Do you think this is why a lot of these sort of big names are kept separate from each other? Do you think it's quite competitive?
Well, we know some people. I mean, some of our favourite actors and what have you from films and television, we know in person they can sometimes be a little bit difficult. I mean, case in example, I mean, we've talked about Sonny Landham from Predator before, haven't we? Yeah. Who played Billy. Apparently on the set there were minders there to try and calm him down and restrain him, because he could be a bit difficult and a bit of a handful with the rest of the cast, couldn't he?
Yeah, that's right. It's funny because I saw Sonny Landham in Poltergeist last night. He was in that, so
yeah.
It's quite a coincidence. He's got a little cameo in that film.
Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully Flash and the Hulk, they sorted it out in an amicable way and there wasn't any intervention. I mean, this could almost turn into, I can imagine this scene sort of like with Ballroom Blitz playing in the background and cosplayers and Daleks and all sorts getting involved, seats getting thrown about.
The whole set comes down and then you just see Lou smash out of it all green.
And and it all spills out onto the street beyond, like the end scene of Blazing Saddles when they come out onto the studio lot or something like that. So yeah, we thought that one would be worth covering. Anything else for housekeeping, Muddy?
Not really. I mean, obviously we're going to go into showcase in a bit, and I obviously want to thank Jo Wilkes and Stephen Waterhouse for contributing to that. But we're going to get into that in a moment. So
yeah, I mean, well, that's a little way off. We've got Star Wars news to get through first. Should we kick off with that?
Yeah.
Okay, this one's from 12news.com website. It's dated the 28th of May, so it's been out there a little while. Lightsaber vendor kicked out of Phoenix Comic Con. It all happens in Comic Cons, mate.
It does.
Yeah. After failing to comply with new protocol. Phoenix. A lightsaber vendor was asked to leave Phoenix Comic Con Saturday after the company failed to comply with new protocols regarding prop weapons at the event, according to a Phoenix Comic Con press release. Phoenix Comic Con and Phoenix Convention Center staff decided to ban all prop weapons from the event Thursday night following the arrest of a man carrying 4 loaded guns and a handful of other weapons inside the convention center with plans to harm police and a Comic Con performer. That sounds pretty serious.
It does, yeah.
I mean, this sounds like the bust up between Flash and the Hulk down in London is nothing compared to them. I mean, this is not laughing stuff. Anyway, the press release says Comic-Con Director of Operations Lee Palmer issued a mandate Friday that all prop weapons for sale be wrapped by the vendors prior to sale. Palmer and his team also held a mandatory meeting Friday with all applicable vendors to help assist in the transition, but no Ultra Sabres representative was present. So it sounds like they realised they had an issue around potentially prop weapons or prop weapons being used as or to conceal real weapons. So they tried to, have a forum with all the vendors and discuss this, but for whatever reason, this particular replica lightsaber company wasn't at that meeting. Comic-Con staff says they approached the custom lightsaber vendors asking about their refusal to comply later that day, according to the press release. The Ultra Sabres team became combative at the time. It doesn't say whether they used lightsabers. Comic-Con staff asked them to remove their exhibits and leave. Now, that's the first time I've ever heard of a vendor being kicked out of a convention.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have thought it would all be sort of vetted before, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, we've probably come close a few times hanging around slave layers and things, but this sounds pretty serious. Phoenix Comic-Con staff issued a complete refund to Ultra Sabres for the cost of their exhibit before the vendors left the site Friday night, they say. According to the press release, Ultra Sabres returned to Comic-Con Saturday to hand out flyers that detail their side of the story. I mean, obviously, this is mostly done with statement from the organisers of the Comic Cons, as more so than Ultra Sabres.
Yeah.
Comic Con staff asked the Ultra Sabre representatives at that stage to leave again. The event staff says they have not decided whether or not Ultra Sabres will return to Phoenix Comic Con, but it sounds to me like there's a bit of bad blood there. They probably won't do. According to the flyer, Ultra Sabres requested a refund on Friday morning because attendance was low. Now, Ultra Sabres claims Phoenix Comic Con director Matt Solberg refused to give them any refund. Their flyer said the reason they were forced out of the event was for expressing discontent after being asked to distribute their products to their customers in trash bags. So I guess that means like black plastic rubbish bags, as we would call them.
Yeah.
Something like that, perhaps. On Friday, Phoenix Comic Con directors requested Ultra Sabres give clients their merchandise in trash bags. Ultra Sabres didn't like the idea of putting their high-dollar lightsabers in trash bags, but say they complied from noon until 8:30 p.m. that day. After the show, Comic Con staff told them they had to pack up their 6 booths and go. The flyer says the flyer warns every vendor and attendee that they could be unfairly banned too. 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, I think, on this, mate, to be honest with you. Obviously, we've got to consider the world climate at the moment. Events in London and Manchester recently, I think, emphasised just how serious this climate currently is. I mean, I've even had an email from Feel the Force Day recently asking people not to take any replica bladed weapons, etc., because they're not going to be allowed to let them in on the day.
Yeah.
So everyone's sort of taking this seriously. I think the Phoenix Comic Con too had to take it seriously, especially in light of the event of some guy trying to get in with firearms, for Christ's sake.
Well, that just sounds crazy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. I think Ultra Sabres and I don't think anyone would have begrudged them this if they had put a sign up on their booths saying that due to the current climate, all purchases made here will be in trash bags or, you know, whatever term you want to use. And I think most customers would have understood that and got it. So is this really a bit of a falling out over nothing?
Why don't they just, a lot of places, vendors you go to will actually post you the item later on.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't have to walk around the convention centre holding it. You know, you can just get it posted to your home and it'll arrive in 2 or 3 days. So.
Well, that seems to me the best idea. You go there, you pay your cash, you fill a form out, postal address, and then DHL or whoever brings it the next week. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's perhaps a bit of a... I mean, you can understand the seriousness, I think, of the Comic Con organisers here in the current light. Yeah, I mean, hopefully we won't see anything like that at any of the conventions we'll be going to.
No, I mean, normally light-hearted and good fun. I mean, obviously with the gun laws in America, perhaps it is possible to turn up to the entrance with a couple of loaded guns. I mean, what we find that the security, obviously in London, is tight, but also quite relaxed. You know, you don't feel like they're going to pat you down like they would at an airport. But they do look in your bag, etc., like they do at most football stadiums these days.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine balance. At the end of the day, that security has to be in place. So, if it wasn't in place and events happened, people would say, why wasn't there improved security? At the same time, we do live in a liberal society. If you want to go out and enjoy yourself, that's your right. And the state or the authorities as such don't have a right as such to intervene with that. So it is a very fine balance that we walk sometimes, I think.
And didn't you say that there were 6 stands that they were closed?
Yeah, 6 booths.
A lot of money. I mean, they've paid thousands for that, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, easily. It sounds like they got a refund, or they, according to Walter Sabers, they weren't given a refund. I mean, I don't know who's right in this. It sounds like there's a lot of bad blood. Anyway, moving on from that, I know this one's one that's close to your own heart, Mark. There's a Star Wars themed Billy base with Admiral Ackbar's head that shouts, "It's a trap." Now, Think Geeks, $40, sorry, it was 30 quid in it. Star Wars Admiral Ackbar singing bass plays the Cantina theme and wiggles its tail, then turns to face you and shouts, "It's a trap." Comes with wall mount or desk stand, runs on C batteries or an AC adapter, and operates on push button or motion sensor prediction. My Yoda does the same. I used to have it in my car on my dashboard until I got so annoyed with it every time I went over a speed bump or something like that. I took it out of there, or I think the good lady did in the end, because I was sitting there talking to it more than I was talking to her. It does say here in brackets, you will not leave it in motion sensing mode for very long. Order today for Father's Day shipping. It's quite an addition to the canon of Billy bass variations. The Star Wars Admiral Ackbar singing bass features the good Admiral's head sculpted onto a singing fish's body. Either by button press or sensing motion, Ackbar springs to life. First of all, it dances to the Cantina song, and then uttering its immortal catchphrase, "It's a trap." It's just that simple. And you're already planning where you'd put yours right now. Admiral Ackbar wants you to own a Star Wars Admiral Ackbar singing bass, so hurry up and order. It's easy, then they've got it in capitals. It's a snap.
Well, the older big mouth Billy Bass ones, they were like 14 quid, I think, so it's a bit of a markup on that, but the novelty of it, I guess, makes it quite special.
Yeah, it's a Star Wars license thing, isn't it? Always adds the price to any merchandise. They've got their own little trailer out on YouTube, and I should just describe this trailer. They've got a guy dressed up as Darth Vader, and he's sitting like in a garage somewhere, right? And they've got one of these things mounted up on the wall, and it's jiggling about and moving its tail to the Cantina music. And Darth Vader's sitting down, sort of slowly moving in time to this music as well. And he's got like a biscuit, or as our American cousins would call it, a cookie that I think you're supposed to think he's eating it. It's like got a sort of semicircle crunched out of this cookie. How he's supposed to be eating it, I don't know, because he's got his helmet on, but he's sitting there holding it in his hand. So I guess you're supposed to get the impression that Vader's having a break somewhere in this garage whilst this thing's playing in the background and he's enjoying it. Some guy dressed as a stormtrooper walks into this scene, right? Looks at it all, shakes his head, it stops playing, then Darth Vader tells him to play it again. Well, I've got the audio from the YouTube commercial for this thing. I'll stick it in now.
It's a trap! Oh, that's fun. Play it again.
Lord Vader,
Again! We can't repel humor of this magnitude.
It's a trap!
Yeah, are you planning where to put yours in, Mark?
Well, I mean, these kind of things are great for a one-off novelty, but if you've got it mounted above your television in your living room, it's going to get annoying eventually, isn't it?
Yeah, I think personally it was the sort of thing you'd have in the hallway near the old welcome mat, just to put the bejesus up people coming through your doorway.
I mean, the head is a good shape for Admiral Ackbar, but obviously with a fish body, it looks, I don't know, kind of like a newt.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good rendition.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we said, what we say, £30, or in this case, I guess it'd be 30 squid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I quite like it. I don't know that I'd spend that sort of money on it. I would do if it was cheaper, probably.
Well, they've actually got an Admiral Ackbar toilet as well, which is decorated. Yeah, there is. And it does say it's a crap.
Well,
it's true.
This is the perfect thing to put up in there, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's
true.
Save you a bit of time. You wouldn't want to be in there on the old porcelain throne too long with that thing annoying you, would you?
No. But, I mean, how would it know what you were doing in there, you know?
Yeah, and it sounds a bit limited. I mean, I think it should be like my Yoda thing that, you know, it's got several different catchphrases. I think this one should have different catchphrases and, you know, play them at random.
Like focus your attention or something like that.
Yeah, concentrate all firepower on that Super Star Destroyer and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
I think they've missed a trick with this one. So that's that one. Have you got anything else on Star Wars?
Star Wars, well, obviously we've got the release date, which I believe is the 15th of December, 2017, which is a day before the United States, I think.
Ooh.
So we're gonna get it again a little earlier. So we should rejoice in the UK.
Yeah, and then hit the internet and spoil it like hell.
Well, you still haven't forgiven them for Battlestar Galactica.
I still have not forgiven them for Battlestar Galactica, no. We won't do it. I think on the whole, we've been fairly responsible like that.
Yeah.
You know, there you go. Yeah, I mean, I think we were kind of speculating it would be a mid-month release anyway. Is that a Friday? I guess it must be.
Let's have a look. 15th of December. We'll be hopefully going to see it over Ely Cinema, won't we? Over the road.
Didn't you say when we were talking in conversation earlier this week that they've got low attendances?
Low attendances have been a problem. This is from Steve Martin, whose daughter works there, and she said they have had to close a few screenings because there haven't been enough customers paying. So
right, and I guess then they'll be sending staff home and stuff because they haven't got the requirement to have so many staff on site.
Yeah, that's true, which is disappointing. But you know, we're approaching summer blockbuster season, so there's some big films coming up. So let's hope the cinema gains momentum.
I mean, how many years around here have we been moaning that we've had to transit to a major city whenever we want to watch a film? And how many years around here have we been saying we should have our own cinema? Exactly. And now we've got it. It seems that people don't want to use it. Yeah. I mean, come on, folks. Use it or lose it, as the saying goes. At the end of the day, it's a business.
I've been twice so far. I went to see Alien Covenant and Wonder Woman. So I'm trying to rack up once a month at least. So.
I have been over there. I got on the old push bike one night with my daughter and we went out for a bit of a ride and did a bit of reconnaissance because I wanted to see if I could find a shortcut to get there, which I did find one. So I've been over there and had a look around the site as such, and it is slowly, you know, they're kind of finishing it off, getting turf down, a little bit of landscaping here and there. I think it's looking a lot better now than it did a week or two back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's not, but I've noticed the same as well. When I've driven past, you're a little bit elevated up there on the A10 and you can actually get quite a good panorama as such of the car park as you drive past.
Yeah.
And it's quite a big open car park. There's plenty of spaces there for folks to go and park up. And yet there's, you know, it's been a case of there's one car in this row, two cars in that row. Each row's probably capable of holding 20, 30 cars. So there's a lot of empty spaces there. You know, come on, folks, use it or lose it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Littleport, Little Downham, Witcham, Witchford. So, you know, there are a lot of surrounding villages here. I'm sure there's plenty of people who enjoy movies. Go and view one at Ely and enjoy the Baskin Robbins ice cream, which is delicious.
Exactly, and support local jobs, keep local people in a job, don't destroy the planet burning your petrol driving all the way to Huntington and Cambridge, and hopefully save yourself a bit of cash in the process and a bit of time as well. it's a great facility. Please, people, use it.
So, Dave, I reckon the 14th of December, which is a Thursday, there'll probably be a midnight showing on that night.
Yeah, I guess that's us going over there for that then.
Yeah, well, we could stumble over there. It's not too bad, is it?
No, like I said, I do know a shortcut, so we can use that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I look forward to that one. If any listeners are there that night, say hello to us.
We could cosplay Dave, really, as it's so close, you know.
Do you really want to?
Not really, but if we get enough votes and likes, then maybe we will.
We could do. Set a competition, feedback or something like that.
Yeah. In other Star Wars news, before we set ourselves up here...
yeah, move on.
Yeah, move on quickly. Battlefield 2, Star Wars Battlefield 2, there was a new trailer of official gameplay released on the 10th of June, and it looks bloody great. I mean, there's a lot of Naboo scenes, but it seems to be the aspect of you're on the Imperial side, so hopefully there'll be a good story arc. But we're talking about the same generation of consoles that are playing Battlefront 1.
Yeah.
And, but the graphics in this one seem to have really come on a lot, and it does look well polished. So I'll pop that new trailer up onto the Hot Wampa Facebook page and see what everyone thinks of it.
Yeah, isn't there like a loose Imperial storyline into it when you've got a female character?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, I think I've seen promotional shots of it, and she's wearing like a TIE pilot's sort of uniform and holding the TIE pilot's helmet sort of under her arm.
Yeah.
So it does sound like there's that as well as just being a bit of a shoot 'em up free for all, that there is a sort of campaign or story based element at least to it.
I think that was a problem with the first one. It was a great game. But it kind of got boring quite quickly because, I don't know, there weren't a story mode to it. So you were just straight into the battle with your mates. And that was great for 20 minutes at a time playing that. But this one seems to have a bit more of an edge to it.
Yeah, it does sound like they've kind of taken it and improved it to a degree. A lot of the time with sequel games that doesn't happen. I mean, I would argue, going back many moons, the Knights of the Old Republic, that the second one, the Sith Lords, whilst it's still a very good game, is nowhere near as good as the original Knights of the Old Republic. Sometimes with sequels they don't get any better, sometimes they do, I guess.
Well, what's your favourite sequel?
What, sequel? What, in the video game?
Film. No, as a film.
As a film? Oh, I don't know, really. It's got to be Aliens.
Aliens, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Can't be Predator 2, can it?
No,
it must... Oh, yeah. That's the obvious.
Is it a sequel? I mean, it's like a continuation of a saga, isn't it? I don't know if it is a sequel.
What, Empire?
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. Favourite sequels, or perhaps with the sequels better than the original one. This is loose, Rogue One. I think it's better than Revenge of the Sith, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. I can't say Terminator 2 is better than the original. I love the original.
No, it's still a good film, but it's not, like you say. I think it's a little bit too polished for me, Terminator 2, whereas Terminator feels a lot more gritty. Yeah. I've got nothing more on Star Wars at the moment, mate.
No, I think that's it for Star Wars for this week, but there will be a lot more coming up, won't they, as we get closer to the release date.
Yeah, and keep your eyes peeled on the various Hot Wampa channels. Move on to Showcase, then.
Okay.
Hot Wampa, making Flash Gordon look like James Corden.
Okay, now this one's a bit of a luxury for me because I haven't got to do a pre-recorded read-through to start with. This one really is Mark's responsibility because he attended an event that I didn't, which you attended, the Ely Cathedral Science Festival Silent Movie Night, didn't you, mate?
Yeah, that's right. That was on the 1st of June.
Yeah.
At Ely Cathedral. Yeah, and it was part of their Science Festival, which in itself I think is quite special that sort of a big religious building is happy to embrace and sort of host a science festival. And there are lots of different things going on around this, and I think we've spoken about it before. And I know there's the last night at the proms kind of thing coming up on the 17th, isn't it?
I'm going to that.
Yeah, and they're going to play music from different sci-fi films and sort of space-orientated music. So that's really good. This one in particular, it was two movies, silent movies, played with the cathedral organ, accompanied by Edmund Aldhouse, who played it. And basically, he improvised the whole lot. He said he had a few ideas what he was going to do, but went along with the film as he watched it himself. So one, you have to be a great musician to do it, and two, you have to have some pretty inspiring film to actually make you want to do it, I think.
Wait. When you say improvised, do you mean every single performance is individual, or is this something he improvised in advance?
No, it was just a one-off, so he just played it how he wanted it on the night. He didn't have any... He had some melodies in his mind for different parts, but apart from that, he played the whole thing and just went wherever he felt like he would go with it.
Well, you didn't go alone, did you, mate?
No, I went with Stephen Waterhouse, a regular contributor to the show. And also there was a colleague, a biologist called Jo Wilkes. She was in the audience as well. So it was nice to get different people's perspective. It was a sunny evening at Ely Cathedral, so looking up around that beautiful environment, seeing the windows change colour as the sun was setting, and we had an introduction, and then...
This is starting to sound like a bromance here, mate.
It was. I mean, I'm getting married next month, and Stephen can't attend my stag weekend. So he said, look, I'll buy you tickets. Very romantic. Yeah. And he said, we'll go together, have a few glasses of wine and, enjoy the evening, see where it goes. He ended up taking us to biology until 3:30 in the morning. I had to get up at 6 the next day, but I managed to make it. But it was a great night, and this was a big part of it.
Yeah. Well, you were fortunate enough. You captured some audio on the night, didn't you?
Yeah, I was a bit too keen, I think, especially for Edmund Aldhouse. I kind of followed him up the steps to the cathedral organ. It was like Hunchback of Notre Dame or the Phantom of the Opera. I just managed to get him.
Sometimes who dares wins like that, Sometimes you've got to broach people, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Otherwise, I think you just stand around looking nervous discussing it and you don't really get anywhere. Anyway, we've got a little bit of audio, and I think this is when you and Stephen were actually transiting or walking up to the cathedral for this event. So let's have a listen to you and Stephen on your way up there.
Hello, this is Mark Dawes from Hot Wampa. I'm outside the monolith that is Ely Cathedral for Ely Cathedral's Science Festival from Dinosaurs to DNA, and we're very fortunate tonight to be here to be seeing two classic sci-fi movies. And to add to that effect, I'm with our frequent contributor and listener, Stephen Waterhouse, and we're going to watch these movies together, Stephen.
Yes, I do. Hello, everybody, and hello to all Mark's fans out there. I know you're both listening, so it's a pleasure to be here tonight. And actually, this is a mini stag do for Mark, so it's a very special occasion for us both, and let's hope it's a good time.
We are going to be watching a couple of movies, which are Trip to the Moon.
Trip to the Moon and The Lost World, the original Lost World.
Yeah, based on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's novel. So hopefully the giant Ely Cathedral organ will be playing along with the movies. So it'll be like a proper science fiction silent movie festival. So hopefully we'll get some good crowd reaction to the music.
Yeah, we'll see. It might be a sing-along, who knows?
A sing-along, who knows? And it's a lovely, the 1st of June today.
Yeah, so, it's a delicious night tonight. It's a beautiful summer's evening.
Yeah, the lime trees are in flower. The cathedral is silent, but I guess when we get inside it will be a bit more lively.
There'll be a treat for us, I'm
okay,
sure.
So we'll get back to you with some interviews and thoughts after we watch these two movies.
So you got there and you went inside the cathedral, had a look around. Did you notice any of the other science festival attractions on the go?
Well, there was sort of... I understand there was a Tyrannosaurus Rex that had been walking around. I didn't see that. But there are lots of sort of decorations designed by local school children, dinosaurs, things like that.
Yeah.
And yesterday, I believe there was a Dalek buzzing around in Ely Cathedral. So, they've really done a good job, I think, and they've got a lot of people interested in science over the last week or two.
Yeah, I've seen a few photographs of that Dalek buzzing around on social media as well. Isn't it sort of a metallic red colour?
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah. Somebody did comment on Facebook that Labour are pulling out all the stops here in their election campaigning, and had a picture of the red Dalek there. Yeah, that's a bit... Was it the guy from Littleport, the droid builders guy? Because we've had reports of Daleks trundling... Well, we've had reports of all sorts in Littleport, but we've had reports of Daleks trundling the streets of Littleport before, haven't we, for various campaign events?
That was a local news story, wasn't it? Down Main Street in Littleport, I think.
Yeah, I think the guy that does them is local. I have broached him before for an interview and he never replied me. So, but yeah, I think perhaps that might well be the same people and perhaps there might be that local element there. You had a bit more discussion with Stephen, obviously, whilst you were walking around inside. Should we listen to that?
Okay.
So now we're inside Ely Cathedral. The crowd is building. Obviously the acoustics are pretty good. People are taking their seats. Red wine? Get 2 red. We're getting a couple of red wines as we go to sit down. See the screen at the end of the cathedral, so hopefully it'll be a good occasion. I know this science fiction festival has quite good heritage, and so far we've had some good talks in Ely as well on science in general. So we'll get back to the end of the film and give you some more thoughts on what we're seeing.
Okay, so eventually, I mean, you and Stephen got seated ready for the first feature, which was, is it the Trip to the Moon one?
Yeah, it's a Trip to the Moon, which is from, incredibly, 1902, which is Le Voyage dans la Lune. So a really old film, and it's only 13 minutes long. But as you will probably hear in the introduction, this is the colorized version. So someone actually had to sit down and paint every single frame of this film. So it's just incredible. I think it was in 2002, a print of the film was discovered in a barn in France, and it was amazing. Not only that it was the complete cut of the film, but it was entirely hand-coloured. So, yeah, it's incredible.
That's the whole point, really. I mean, when you say literally had to paint the film, literally they painted the film.
Yeah.
This wasn't some sort of filter that it was run through or some sort of other process. I mean, you do wonder why that somebody today digitally, where we can do it quite, I mean, I could probably do it quite easily, get old black and white or monochrome footage and add various hues and tones and stuff to it and make it appear coloured. Why it kind of hasn't come before, but I mean, the one they showed you was this cut that was found in France, yeah?
Yeah, the one they found in the barn. It's also got a segment near the end which is animated, making it one of the first animated films too.
So this is a bit of a pathfinder, this is a bit of a pioneer, this movie, really.
Well, when we look at, I guess the French sort of began cinema as such, didn't they? I mean, the Lumiere brothers as well. Yeah. I mean, you know, they were the pioneers at the time.
This is the movie with a famous clip where it looks like a tin can's being fired into a face of the moon, the man in the moon, isn't it?
That's right, and that is Georges Méliès, who plays the face of the moon. So he's the creator.
Yeah. So this one was a little bit, you know, this was the warm up act for the main feature almost. So this would have been your first flavour of the improvised organ score and how it fitted to the footage. You and Stephen got sat down throughout the performance, and you had a bit more discussion there. I think Stephen was a bit concerned about his vertigo, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had a strange feeling when he said reverse vertigo. That when he looked up, he felt like he shouldn't be sitting down, kind of thing. So right. I don't know. You will hear me eating some Smarties among some of these recordings, so forgive me for that. I was a bit hungry.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got that audio footage where you're sitting down with Stephen just prior to the performance, and we'll stick that in here. I mean, this is obviously you and Stephen's dialogue. I believe the lady that was introducing the night speaks a bit as well, and the organ player. Some of the audio is a little bit low. I'm going to try and bring it up in balance with the compressor, but anyway, have a listen to that bit and then we can carry on talking about it.
Second row from the front. I mean, in the cinema it wouldn't be the done thing, but here it seems like...
You know, I had a thing about going to cinema on my own in my 20s, I suppose, and I was single for a bit, between relationships. I'd be on the front row on my own, just loving it, lapping it up.
What kind of movie was that?
It was mainly foreign. It was art house. Yeah. It was Cambridge House.
Like Betty Blue, lapping her up.
Oh, I lap her. Just, you should put your thingy on. Is it on?
It's on, Steve.
Oh shit! Hello, everyone. Sorry about that.
So basically,
oh my god, that gives me the creeps looking up at the. It's an amazing.
Stephen's got a problem here with looking up, and obviously we're at the Octagon Tower, right?
Yeah, no. It's what I have is a kind of vertigo, so I feel a bit weird looking up at very tall ceilings. I just imagine myself hanging from the
Artex.
From the Artex ceiling. There's a bit, and then that's it. It's strange, and I get the strangest feeling in my feet. It's like I want to run away. Anyway, I'm being brave tonight. It's the most amazing setting for a movie.
And especially as a sunny evening, you know, the sun's setting over Ely.
Yeah, it really is. Ely's a very small city, but my God, it makes up for it with sort of grandeur. The setting for this night, and it's a good reflection of the community here. People come out in force to support the cathedral. You know, it all goes towards the upkeep of the venue, and it's just yeah, it's a nice thing to do.
Yeah, I totally agree with Stephen. I mean, it looks. I mean, they've dressed it up well, haven't they, in the cathedral? I mean, it's there's a lot of science fiction, science facts, DNA, dinosaurs.
Yeah, it's all part of the science festival, isn't it? But,
yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very, very welcome to Ely Cathedral, to this quite unique event as part of the Ely Cathedral Science Festival. If I just give you a brief outline of what will happen, I'm just going to say a few words including the safety announcement, and now I'm going to hand over to Edmund Aldhouse, who is the person who is holding all of this together through his imagination and creativity. Then we're going to see the first film, Trip to the Moon, which is about 15 minutes, and then there'll be a short interval, time for you to get a drink, and then we'll see the main feature, which is The Lost World. It's always a good idea at something like this to turn off your mobile phone, and if there should be any kind of emergency, we'll be directed out of the cathedral by the stewards, who are those people wearing the red sashes as you came in, and we leave the cathedral quietly and calmly. I think that's everything I need to say, other than thank you all very much for coming, and hand over to Edmund, who's going to tell us a bit more about what's going to happen.
Thank you very much, Vicky. Good evening, and thank you to all of you for coming this evening to experience our sci-fi silent film show, Live All the Covenant. I don't want to say too much because you have come to watch the film and listen to the music, and you've not come to listen to me talk in front of a blank screen. But just a word of explanation about the two films you're going to see, and a very brief word of explanation about the art and craft of improvisation, and an insight into what I'll be doing up there as you sit watching the film. So first of all, a word about the two films. You've got a very useful note written by Vicky in front of you about both works. All I really need to say about the first one is that it is a wonderful opportunity to experience one of the earliest examples of the craft. I don't know if Vicky's note mentions, because it certainly confused me, that the film was originally filmed rather in black and white and then coloured by hand afterwards, which must have been quite a job. So if you are surprised by seeing a film from 1902, which is in colour, then that is the reason why. It's very theatrically shot. There's no camera movement. You see one unmoving shot presenting a sort of proscenium arch type image. And what I've tried to do, or what I'm going to be trying to do, we'll see how successfully, is to create a score which maybe just harks back in some way to that particular time in terms of the musical language and also the nationality of the film. And then after the interval we have The Lost World, a much longer feature and much more developed in terms of filmic techniques. Quite influential at the time. We have all got used to CGI and the wonders that could be achieved in films like Jurassic Park, I suppose. And so the special effects you will see in The Lost World might appear a little bit clunky, but at the time they would have been very, very striking to an audience not really used to seeing moving dinosaurs and all things. So do just try to transport yourself back into that mindset. It is a good idea to read the synopsis that you have in your programme before the film starts. If you've not experienced one of these screenings before, just understanding the vocabulary of silent film can take a while. It took me a while the first time I watched this being done. So it's often a good idea just to have an idea of the story in your head before we start. Now a quick word about the music. What I can say to you is that what you are about to hear is genuinely going to be made up on the spot. But I would be lying if I said that I didn't already have some ideas. And this is, I think, perfectly authentic within the craft. You will see, sometimes even through composed scores for silent films, and certainly you will see sheets of suggested themes, suggested tunes, which were produced at the time these films were released. And I guess, just thinking about it today, I concluded that that must have been quite important, because these days it's easy. If somebody says to me, would you like to do a silent film on the 1st of June, I can take away the DVD or find it on YouTube, watch it as many times as I like before I have to do the improvisation. I'm guessing that would have been much harder for the cinema pianist at the Odeon in Ely 90 years ago, because there was certainly no such thing as YouTube or DVD. So he or she would perhaps, I suppose, have had one show in a closed cinema, but possibly not. Very possibly the first time they did the improvisation in public would have been with a paying audience. So we're quite lucky, actually, these days. I do have some themes in mind, themes associated with particular characters, which can then be extended to particular ideas, and also maybe some forms in mind, so the film has a kind of coherence. I hope that you might hear a musical score, which has at least a little akin to a tone poem or an operatic texture, but I don't mean to vaunt my skills too highly. It is improvisation, not composition, and very much created on the spur of the moment. So I now need to nip upstairs. For those of you who don't know, the organ is played, oh, you can't see it, can you? It's played just from a loft underneath the main case and above the little sort of crow's nest case that hangs down. I don't think you can unfortunately get beyond that room, but do go and have a quick look during the meeting if you don't know how our organ works. So it takes me about a minute to get up there, and then the projection will start, and an appetizer before the event. A trip to the moon is the first feature.
Well, let's count down that minute. Pure improvisation. I want to know how he's going to see the film. If we're watching the film here, will he have a laptop with a DVD?
Yeah,
or
I reckon. It'll be on the same...
Start at the same time.
Yeah. It'd be interesting if it was slightly out there.
I'm expecting some Smashing Pumpkins in this trip to the moon.
But just to let everyone know, we're in the front row, Mark and I. We've really scored.
We really have. I mean, we are just in front of the screen.
We're two of about 120 people here, roughly. So yeah, it's a modest audience, but it's still a fantastic setting. Come on, son.
So Stephen, we've seen a wonderful improvisation there from Edmund Aldhouse.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, the organist, you know, he said earlier that he didn't play to any music pre-planned, so it was all improvised, and it was amazing, absolutely amazing. That's the first time I've seen this film, and it's funny. Just think, it's made in 1902. That's over 100 years.
67 years before man landed on the moon.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's funny. A lot of it's animation. And it reminded me quite a lot of the Monty Python animations by Terry Gilliam. The kind of, you know, the kind of crude, you know, the crude bits and bobs moving along. But it was pretty amazing if you think about how old it is.
Yeah, I think I was impressed by the colorization as well. You know, how they come back and coloured that frame by frame. You know, so.
That's right. And just think that's the first ever, really, probably the first ever sci-fi film ever made.
Yeah,
and that's it. That's the birth of it. There you go.
It relied a lot on theatrical sets, didn't it? And you know, they changed quite quickly. But
yeah, there was a lot of filler. You know, there's a lot of shots of the same set and not a lot happening. But really, there's so many iconic scenes in there, especially one of the moon, the man.
Yeah,
the
we've seen that so many times. As a Family Guy, The Simpsons, Smashing Pumpkins, Tonight, that video really hit home tonight. I felt. You know.
But yeah, it's great, and what a setting! What a setting!
Okay, so this is your first flavour. How did you think the organ player did from, in his initial 25-minute, whatever it is, feature, in terms of producing music that felt like it fit the film. Now, this isn't just a case of atmosphere. I mean, it's a case of timing, isn't it? That it has to work with the scenes and the feeling of each scene. What was your initial impression from this first feature?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of enthusiastic. I guess it's difficult to have a particular science fiction theme when you've got a cathedral organ, But what I will say, there was never a moment when I thought this sounds like a hymn that I would recognise from a hymn book, a church score or something like that. It always sounded different to what I'm used to seeing, hearing from the cathedral organ. So he did do a wonderful job with that.
Mm-hmm. So no tones of Jerusalem in there then?
No, nothing like that.
Which incidentally, in turn, is, I believe, based on Jupiter from Holt's Planet Suite.
There you go.
Yeah, Easter eggs you'd never get on another podcast.
But Edmund Aldhouse, he did a great job. There are a couple of themes running through A Trip to the Moon that also appeared in The Lost World, which was the second film.
Uh-huh. So he kind of, you think he perhaps went back to his initial inspiration a bit and crossed over in both movies?
Yeah, and I don't know if that was typical of the time. I guess if you were an organ player in a cinema back then, you kind of had your own signature theme, I guess, or something like that. You would always try to incorporate so people would know it was you.
What, like Magnum or something?
Yeah.
Oh, it's Olden again. But that's the point, I think, in a retro sense. This is the way that when these features would have first been displayed on a screen communally for people to watch, be it early cinema, the theatre, however you want to classify that. This is the way you would have watched them. There would have been a guy sat at the front piping away on an organ, wouldn't there?
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
I think some films had pianists and the likes as well back in the day.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have been a distraction, would it?
No. Okay. So, get off to a good start there. You and Stephen had a little bit more narrative between you prior to the Lost World audio, and again, the organ kicked off and started playing, and you spoke again afterwards. Let's have a listen to that clip.
So our next film is The Lost World, Stephen, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. We've seen it many times in different, over the years. Obviously Jurassic Park 2 was subtitled The Lost World. Homage to that, I guess.
Yes, well, I haven't got a lot to say about The Lost World, but I remember going to see Jurassic Park in Cambridge. I had a terrible migraine.
1993, wasn't it?
The Canon. With an old, remember the old Usher? He had bright orange wig. Mm-hmm. Amazing. It was called Wiggly at the time. But yeah, that's pretty much all of my input as far as The Lost World goes. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Well, I'm looking forward to a bit of stop motion.
I've got a really question. Do you want some more wine?
Yeah, I'll have another glass of wine, mate.
White or red?
Red, please.
But in a tick, please.
So Stephen's going to get some booze. Always welcome. So Ray Harryhausen, obviously heavily influenced by the stop motion techniques in this film. Obviously King Kong, the RKO Productions, the Valley of the Wangi, Clash of the Titans. Harryhausen went on. Obviously stop motion for us was important up to 1987 per Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop. So it continues, and we're looking forward to see this film. Once again, beautiful setting as the sun goes down. We can see the windows changing at Ely Cathedral. So Waterhouse gets back with the red wine before the film starts. Out of red, we got white. Second bell.
I've got half measures as well.
Oh well, we're back on it.
Yeah. Give something to work towards for later.
So we're about to start with The Lost World 1925. This is a USA film after Georges Méliès' 1902 French film.
Mark, I've got one bit of trivia for this film.
Go on.
It's the first ever in-flight movie. I think it was 1922. I don't know the airline. I'm sure it was an American airline, but yeah, there we are. All these years of in-flight movies, you can have whatever you want. The first ever one was The Lost World. This is it, yeah.
People want to watch Desperate Housewives and
whatever you want.
Kardashians these days.
Awful European kind of candid camera type stuff. You got whatever you want, but yeah, first ever was this. Nice bit of trivia.
Top trivia there, Stephen.
And I don't want to build up anything, but that's all I've got.
Well, I think that is the build-up.
Yeah, that's it really. But yeah, we're looking forward to it, and same setting, amazing setting. Is this going to be all? Is the music all organ for this? Do you know? Is it a silent another silent?
Yeah, he's going to be playing with his organ the whole flick.
No, nothing. I was going to say as are we, but maybe not throughout the whole movie. It's quite a long one now.
Looking up to those windows to the left, Stephen.
Is it a long one?
No, it's not long. Here we go. So in the end, Stephen, the monster basically got away.
Yep, and, well, what can I say, really? You sum it up, Mark, go on.
Well, I thought the monster was swimming towards the west end of London, not out towards the North Sea. So it's screwed either way.
It was all a bit funny, really, wasn't it? Here comes Edmund.
Here comes Edmund Aldhouse. Well, as I say, I guess that is that.
That is it, game over. It was pretty wonderful. What did you think, Mark?
Well, I thought the stop motion wasn't too far off what we'd seen in King Kong, for example. It wasn't too far off.
But you go even a few years later, or a few decades later to, was it 50 million years BC?
Yeah, 100 million.
100 million, sorry.
Yeah.
I was halfway there.
Yeah.
But even so, it wasn't that far off. It was pretty good.
No.
Really.
And obviously it had a very sort of, those old Charlie Chaplin era sort of makeup and stuff like that.
Yeah, the heavy eyeliner.
Heavy eyeliner, yeah.
But even, it was a good event, right?
Shall we go and try to have a chat with Edmund?
Go on.
If we can.
He looks pretty brisk.
Yeah, he does.
He's a busy man, by the scene.
Hopefully I'll catch him in the loo.
I think he might be cleaning his organ.
Hey, wait there.
Okay.
So the performance on the Lost World organ playing. Obviously this is a much longer feature than the Trip to the Moon feature.
Yeah.
Did you think there was a deterioration, or was the standard there across both?
The standard was good. Obviously, he had to keep a lot of stamina when that one, because it was a longer film. I'm talking of stamina. I know Stephen Waterhouse was drifting off. I saw his eyes closing a few times. Despite several glasses of wine, he was on his way out, I think, at that point. Although, he said he enjoyed the film. So, but there were some good themes with when the dinosaurs were on the screen. I felt that sort of heavy tones on the organ, and it reflected what was going on. So he kept up the job there.
So it felt relatively authentic then?
Yeah. As far as authentic as I would imagine, anyway.
Other than Stephen, who'd had a couple of glasses of wine on a warm evening and was possibly paying the price for that, like you say.
Yeah. So he did get a second win. So
yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, when in Rome, you're gonna live that moment. It does sound like a very nice evening. I mean, I missed this. Like I said, I'm going to the proms next week. I believe it's next week, is it?
Yeah, it's the 17th on Saturday night.
Yeah. We've got a babysitter and we're going to that. So any listeners are out there, keep an eye out for me. How did you dress for this feature? Did you just go up there in your sort of jeans and your shirt or whatever? Was it a very formal occasion, or was it
Dave?
A little bit smart casual?
I always worry about these cathedral events. You don't know, so you want to fit in, but yeah, it was just a shirt and jeans and trainers, nothing too formal.
Okay, so I may even be wearing my Hot Wampa t-shirt. So if any listeners see me, please feel free to come over and say hello.
Yeah, I did have my Hot Wampa t-shirt on, which sort of once I removed my shirt, people realised that was there. I did get a few ladies later on ask what the hell a Hot Wampa was. So
yeah, I mean we've already heard from those particular ladies, I think, in our intro this week.
Yeah, and it went down well with him. So.
Yeah, I imagine that it did. So yeah, it's like a superhero moment. You know, you sort of, you know, like Superman pulling his shirt apart to show you the family symbol on his costume. It's a bit like the Hot Wampa moment. Obviously, you want to sort of, you know, look the part if you want to approach people for interviews, and you did, didn't you?
Yeah, I've got the organist himself,
the main man. Yeah. Well, you went up to him and spoke to him, and you also had an interview with, like you said, is it the biologist that you know?
Yeah, Jo Wilkes. She's a biology professor at Cambridge Seminars College and also Bellaby's College.
Okay, so you know, great minds here. Should we have a listen to those interview clips?
Okay.
Hi, so I'm with Edmund Aldhouse now, who just played the organ throughout the sci-fi movies that we've just seen. Edmund, so where did you get your inspiration from other than the movies themselves? I mean...
I suppose a wide range of influences, really. The way that I work on this is very much inspired by romantic composers, particularly the likes of Wagner with his leitmotivic composition, also creators of tone poems, so Strauss is a good example of that, but he's not the only one. And then I was drawing in influences as well from Ravel, Debussy, and great organ composers too, like J.S. Bach.
So it's wonderful that you stayed true to those, because for me, seeing the first movie, Trip to the Moon, you know, I look for modern inspiration. For example, Smashing Pumpkins, and that movie has been inspired by so many, inspired so many people. So, it's wonderful for you to be here tonight, Ely Cathedral, great atmosphere, great venue, and, for you to play that inspirational music for us, it certainly accompanied the theme of the movies really well. May I ask what sort of science fiction movies you like yourself?
I have to say that science fiction has not been a big part of my interest, although if I were going to pick one thing out, I've always adored The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, really? Particularly actually its original radio version, which is something which I think originated before I was born.
Yeah, and local as well, Douglas Adams, Cambridge.
Indeed, but I greatly admired both his imagination but also the verbal dexterity that's in something like that.
I was expecting you to say something like Vangelis and Blade Runner, or something else like more classical. But that's great that the humorous side and local to us in Cambridgeshire as well. So thank you very much, Mr. Aldhouse. It was a wonderful, wonderful evening. So
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so eminent Cambridgeshire scientist, biologist Jo Wilkes is with us now. And Jo, you sat through those two movies, accompanied by the music from Edmund Aldhouse. How do you feel at the end of it?
It was fabulous, really, really impressive. The music was went seamlessly with the film. You forgot it was being improvised.
Yeah, pure improvisation. And I think when you realise that you're sitting in Ely Cathedral as the sun goes down, it gets a bit eerie, doesn't it?
It's a bit, that's right, yes. It kind of transports you to another age.
You look up now and we're in twilight now, I guess, aren't we? It's sort of the sun has well gone down. So.
That's right, but how high are we? I mean, how high is the ceiling? So 10 stories?
Well, Stephen's still worried about his vertigo or reverse vertigo, so he's got issues here.
But it's impressive. It's an amazing, echoey arena.
Well, Jo...
And the cathedrals have been done up beautifully, hasn't it?
Yeah,
all the
wonderful.
artwork and all the science theme, yes.
Jo, 1920s, that film about, dinosaurs, in a time when many people were sceptical about dinosaurs. So, I mean, as a biologist, how does that stand up through the test of time?
I think it's fascinating. Some of my students are still sceptical about dinosaurs. We tend to think that dinosaurs are kind of mainstream knowledge, but some of my students are still sceptical about dinosaurs. Some people don't want to hear about dinosaurs.
Do you think,
despite the fossil evidence,
the setting we're in, is it a controversial subject?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's very brave of Ely Cathedral to put on a science festival.
And to be celebrating Darwin is incredible, really.
It's a nice amalgamation
of the two. His views were quite heretical. And,
yeah.
Do you think common sense has prevailed?
Well, Common Sense goes back to my Ladybird book, which The Lost World was one of my favourites, so after Arthur Conan Doyle. Yeah. And I remember the plateau, so it was nice that it popped up, and it was exactly as I thought it
that
would
setting, the kind of plateau, that remind me of Up.
That's a great film, isn't it?
The kind of plateau,
yeah.
The house that they landed on is very similar sort of setting.
Yeah. So, well, I guess as they're collecting the rubbish here, I guess we better leave Ely Cathedral in His Majesty until next time and go for a pint at the Minster Tavern.
Sounds good.
Great.
Well, it sounds like a very good night. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit uncultured, but I'm not sure whether I would perhaps find it entertaining in a way to watch a very old movie to live organ music. But obviously it's authentic to the way people used to watch film. How did you feel about it? I mean, like myself, you're used to the modern cinema experience, and that's pretty much been the same throughout our cinema going live, so to speak. Did you still find it entertaining, and did you still find it held you through?
I did, Dave. I think mainly because it runs true when it comes to like a sci-fi origin.
Yeah.
And you look at the film and you think, this isn't too far off from King Kong, which wasn't too far off of Valley of the Wangi or Mighty Joe Young, or, those kind of 50s and 60s stop-motion science fiction films. It wasn't a million miles away. Obviously, they had the heavy black eye makeup and, they looked older because it was from 1925. Never being a silent movie fan, I mean, I was more Laurel and Hardy than Charlie Chaplin or Buster Keaton, so I like the audio. But the stop motion work was really good for the time, and it was one of the first sort of films to use it. One of my absolute favourite pieces of trivia about this film, obviously The Lost World was written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who actually has a cameo in this film as Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And I mean, when you think of Sherlock Holmes, you think of sort of 19th century and, a long time ago. But yeah, he was actually in this movie and he was a big fan of it, so...
Yeah, when you think this is, the guy that penned things like the Shuckov, the Hound of the Baskervilles and all the rest of it, I mean, this is, we're getting back here in time, aren't we?
Yeah, and that is time travel, and that sort of, I was overwhelmed when I read that.
Yeah.
But the creatures were good. I mean, there were probably some mistakes in how they looked, but with our knowledge of fossils and how dinosaurs look has sort of evolved along with the times. So, but yeah, it was a great job they did. And as Stephen Waterhouse said, it was the first ever cross-Atlantic in-flight movie in 1926. So that's a nice one. It was from London to Paris in April 1925. It was the first in-flight movie.
Yeah, well, we've got a good job. We've got Stephen there to provide his Easter eggs, really, because I didn't realise anything like that. I mean,
I didn't even know they existed.
I mean, what, did you have an organ player on the flight?
Yeah.
Some old biplane or something with a big old pipe organ in the middle. How did that work?
I have no idea. Maybe it was the pilot. So, but I don't even know if they had an autopilot back then.
What, with a comb and a piece of tracing paper or something like that? Kazoo. Yeah. Oh, that's a brilliant little Easter egg. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a little bit difficult for me to discuss it because I wasn't there. I mean, I can only broach you about it. Do you really want to sum up about it and talk about it?
Well, it was The Lost World, obviously a film I know, been remade several times. It was great to see it in that venue on that particular day as the sun was going down, with a glass of wine in a theatre of people who obviously were coming there for this specific event. And I loved the trip to the moon as well because I'm a Smashing Pumpkins fan, and the video was used in Tonight, the song by Smashing Pumpkins. So there's a lot of things in there that I like, touchstones, and you're going back to the original. And for me, that was really nostalgic and fun. And hopefully they do something like this every year.
Yeah, I mean, and I hope, because the audio clips you managed to capture on the night were of a quite good quality audio clips, I'll say that, mate. I mean, that building has some fantastic acoustics.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine that in itself contributed to the atmosphere and the sort of echo in the building and the resonance of an old church building like that. It must have been a pretty good night.
Yeah, it was. And didn't we get a comment from Joseph on Hot Wampa about the cathedral itself?
Yeah.
And he was interested on how old it was and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, people probably don't realise it's there, but it's such a massive building. And for us, like you were saying, Dave, I mean, I'm not a churchgoer. And stepping in the cathedral, sometimes you feel a bit out of place and you don't feel like you really belong there, even though it's like the biggest building in our community. But this particular event, I really did feel like, hang on, this is for us, we're sci-fi science lovers, this event was put on for people like us, and, we were made welcome. And as soon as we started chatting to the two ladies selling snacks and drinks, we felt right at home.
Well, I mean, I don't know that sort of faith or lack of really has to play a part in appreciating the sort of majesty of the setting and the achievement of the cathedral itself. I mean, it is a wonderful building.
Yeah.
And I think it's a wonderful local asset. I mean, it can put things on like this. It's dominated the skyline throughout our lives. I mean, there's the old trope whenever you go somewhere on a car journey, you always have that competition in a car to who can see the cathedral first. Don't matter where you're coming back from, Cambridge or wherever it's even a day out at Hunstanton. I mean, it's I don't know, to me the cathedral literally is iconic.
Yeah, and as you said to Joseph Campbell on our Facebook, you put they finished building it in 1375, which is, says everything really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and obviously the labour and the structural engineering of the time, and for the most part, other than a few, collapsed towers and things, it's lasted. It's well made. It's an interesting piece of trivia. I guess it's time for me to inject an Easter egg here. The specific cover art for this episode of Hot Wampa will feature the cathedral on the front of it, but we are not the first to get cover art onto iTunes with Ely Cathedral.
Really?
Do you know who else has done it?
Would it be Division Bell by Pink Floyd?
Bang on.
Yeah.
Yep, Ely Cathedral, the venue that we're describing and talking about, it is in the music video they did as well. It's a lot of the landscape of the fens and the surrounding countryside. I believe some of it was shot in Cambridge, and I think it's a song from the Division Bell. I think it's called High Hopes.
Okay.
So if anyone wants to look that one up on YouTube, and you'll actually get to see Ely Cathedral inside the in the music video itself, and a bit of the surrounding fen landscape, and that's the venue that we're talking about.
Well worth a visit.
Well worth a visit. Like I said, I shall be at the proms next week. Will I capture any audio? I don't know. Will I have the nerve to approach the conductor and ask them? I don't know. I don't tend to have your social graces. That's my problem.
Just push it in their face and ask them to speak.
No. Yeah, so like I said, anything else you want to kind of sum up and talk about it?
Well, I just urge people to keep an eye out for these kind of things, maybe in their own area. I mean, as Jo Wilkes said about science, it's an interesting sort of amalgamation, really, between science and faith. I'm not religious at all, so no. And I know a lot of people, like creationists and stuff like that, they dispute certain things, and it's nice that people can come together in a building like that and have a good debate, a healthy debate, whether what they believe and what we have is fact or, fiction. And I think that's what the whole thing is about, really.
Well, I mean, faith is a very personal and important thing to some people. I've never begrudged faith. I think it's, full well that my religious views are probably pretty close in line to your own, Mark.
Yeah.
The only time I've ever had a problem with faith is in the circumstances it's held back progress, like medical advances or technological understanding, scientific understanding of things, because it contradicts what a faith says. I'm a bit of a romantic. I think we've only got one life, and it's down to us to learn as much and to understand as much and appreciate as much during your lifetime as you can do. And sometimes when faith has provided an answer for that, I think it's kind of gone contrary to that, hunger for knowledge as such,
Yeah, and sometimes you feel like it's held back humanity in a way.
Yeah, but all the same, I think we can appreciate that it's a magnificent venue, and like you say, it's quite forward thinking that they would be prepared to host. It's not the first time they've had a science festival there, is it?
No, it's not. I think this one was pretty much the biggest one they've had, but yeah, you're right. They've seemed to have been open to it in the past few years, and I think it's because of a lot of the sort of clergy there are quite willing and well-educated people who are happy to discuss and debate these topics.
Yeah, I think it's great that they've done that. Should we move on to something else that's a bit close to home?
Yeah, closer than Ely Cathedral?
Actually, no. Correcting myself. Sometimes in local news when we've spread our wings a bit, a classic example I can think of the top of my head would be the Cumbrian Caped Crusader Batman.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's not been much happening around here, which is within the spirit, shall we say, of local news. We've had to do the same this week because, frankly, there's not been enough lunacy on the go out there. Which is surprising because normally this is the one portion of the show it's not difficult to find a story for.
No, this time, yeah.
Yeah. People get out on a warm summer's evening, a few beers down, and things happen. But this is one story I did come across. Like I said, this is pushing it out there a little bit. That kind of fits in the spirit. This one's from the Nottingham Post, which has been dated the 3rd of June 2017 via their correspondent John Pritchett. So, like I said, we're travelling a bit further afield to get some local news, but it kind of fits the vein. Right. Retired Jean Brooks has become an internet star after capturing the nation's hearts with her ingenious way of stopping speeding drivers. Are you familiar with this story?
I'm not familiar with it, no.
You'll enjoy this. The 64-year-old stands on her front garden and uses a hairdryer as a fake speed gun, pointing at cars as they drive past. Now, you might think this is just me talking a lot of hot air, but this is apparently actually happening. Okay, she says drivers often slow down for fear they might be caught speeding. A video of her in action taken by the BBC after she rang into one of their radio shows has now gone viral online. Today, Jean told the Post, the Nottingham Post that is, how it all began following a close family tragedy. After the death of her son-in-law, Jean threw herself into fundraising for Mary Curie Cancer Care, creating a cafe in the front garden of her home in St Mary's Way, Hucknall. It was while she spent her days in her garden, she noticed cars were often speeding up and down the road. She went on to say, I remembered a friend told me something she had heard of in France. She said someone got their hairdryer and pointed it at the cars and they slowed down, so I thought I'd do that. I mean, I suppose a hairdryer is a relatively good sort of facsimile of a way of a speed gun looks, isn't it?
Yeah, and giving someone the hairdryer treatment, I guess, it'll fix it.
It's a mechanical, electrical household item. I mean, I don't know whether it's got a curly lead coming off it, which I don't think a modern speed radar gun does have. Probably a good choice if you're going to try and imitate a speed gun as opposed to grabbing a banana out of the fruit bowl or something like that and pointing at people. TV remote control, perhaps. Yeah. Cars now slow down on the road, she says, confusing her hairdryer for a handheld speed camera. But apparently this has also brought the community closer together. As she speaks to the Nottingham Post in the cafe in her garden, she sounds a bit of a colourful character, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, where locals and passerby can nip in for a cup of tea and a chat while donating money at the same time. People walking past smile and wave, while drivers beat their horns in a nod to her actions. She gained notoriety after contacting BBC Radio Nottingham, who promptly filmed her armed with the, in quotation, speed gun in less than 24 hours. The video had more than 12 million views.
Wow.
I'm starting to wonder if we need to do this to get the podcast out there. Yeah. I was listening to the radio and they were talking about these kids who were riding around on bikes, she said. They asked if anyone had got a solution for it, and I phoned up and said, I've sorted it. I used my hairdryer. The street is on the main road onto the estate, so it's busy. And it's also used as a school drop-off point, so we can imagine that, cars parked up, pulling in and out. They come up on their scooters and quad bikes showing off to the sixth form girls, acting like a male bird of paradise. It's all, look, no hands, but it will soon be, look, no teeth. Sounds like she's getting a bit vicious here.
Yeah, she's blowing hot and cold.
Using a speed gun, I'm calling it a speed gun now. The hairdryer is some sort of weapon. I don't know whether it's got a bayonet attachment to it or something like that. One of my daughters called me up and said, I've gone viral. I thought I don't have a virus, but she told me what she meant. My grieving daughter has seen it and it made her laugh. I've made my roads safer for kids and I've made my grieving daughter smile. You can't put a price on that. Well, I guess if she has. But Jean, who has lived in Hucknall all her life but only in St Mary's Way for a year, is keen to stress she hopes to bring the community closer together, whether it's through a hairdryer or a cup of tea. We need to bring community spirit back, she said. Back in the 50s and 60s, people would do anything for anyone when we were getting over the war, and that's what we need to get back. As well as the cafe, Jean has also set up a stall with donated items, with the funds going to Marie Curie Cancer Care. She's growing vegetables, which she will sell in return for a small donation, and is also planting monkey orchids in teapots, which people can pay for. I don't know quite what a monkey orchid is, but it sounds like a bit of an ornamental novelty thing that you can grow these things perhaps in a teapot, like a planter.
and monkey orchids don't really need a lot of water. They like to have like moist moss, and it helps them, so they're low maintenance, and they're quite pretty.
So it's a bit like an English version of a bonsai tree or something, is it? So something you can stick up there on the old mantelpiece next to your Admiral Ackbar, Billy the Boasting, and finish the authentic look.
Exactly.
What do we think to this story then?
Well, obviously she pent up a lot of hatred and anger, based on what had happened to her and her family. And what she went out there to do was to slow the traffic down and to make people think. And obviously she's achieved that and managed to find a little bit of fame in the meantime.
So in something that, like you said, she was angry, perhaps in sort of those darker feelings, she's found something of a positive outlet, which seems to basically be helping her community.
Yeah, but now she's revealed herself, you have to wonder.
I was about to say that. This doesn't work now, does it?
No.
Because if you're driving down St Mary's Way now and you see a grandmother stood there holding a device in her hands, you know it's a hairdryer.
Exactly.
So it's not going to be effective as a deterrent anymore. It's like speed cameras. You never know which ones are genuine and you never know which ones are dummies. That's why they're effective.
Exactly. So I don't know what she could do. I mean, she can't even put a cape and cowl on and do it, can she? I mean, because people will still know who it is. She's got to come up with another gimmick.
Hairdryer woman.
Yeah.
Perhaps, we need to come up with something. I mean, it's a nice story, though, I think, in a way.
It is. I mean, and it's the sort of thing that some Hollywood writer would pick up and make a movie out of.
I mean, she does sound like a very colourful character, a very forward character who's prepared to go out there and have a go. And I think, like I said, sort of those more negative feelings and frustration and grieving, and she kind of has turned it into something, a positive vent for it. And I think we can kind of applaud that.
Yeah, I certainly do. I mean, and she might have saved a couple of lives, you don't know. It might have made people think a bit more.
She certainly brought attention to speeding drivers down this road in a road which is, as she's quoted, is a school drop-off point. So you've got small children, where they're not always visible between parked cars and the like. She's gone out and made a difference. And she seems to have done it in a fairly sort of peaceful way. She's made a talking point of it at a local level. It stays in people's mind to slow down. I mean, I wouldn't want a granny with a hairdryer jumping out on me as I was driving through there. Fair play to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got that. What have you got, mate?
All right, well, I've got one on Chesterton Road in Cambridge. There's a shop called The Private Shop, which is the only sex shop in Cambridge.
Okay.
Now, it's always been closed off at the front, so nobody could see, so it doesn't offend any children or anything like that. And it used to be like blue with just the windows covered with the opening hours. But it has had a facelift, and it's gone a bit classy, and it looks quite nice. And now you've got a couple of small trees outside, and like a metal gate outside. The windows are white, and and new fonts with decent sort of lettering on the front. And so, it's gone up market. Maybe that's to reflect the clientele in Cambridge. I'm not sure, but it's the only sex shop within a 20-mile radius of Cambridge.
Yeah, there used to be one out near March, Guyherne Way, out near a transport cafe out that way.
Yeah.
But I think that was kind of like the Wilco's of sex shops, do you know what I mean? A lot of inflatable products and a lot of various brightly coloured items that I guess you could use as a speed gun as well, in various sort of neon pinks and greens and things. Not quite, a little bit more like the Wilkie or Audi of sex shops, if you will. I don't know if it's still there or not.
Inflatable sheep and stuff like that, and obviously
I never had a look. Obviously, it was a talking point, and looked over my shoulder whenever I've driven past to the transport cafe out that way. But I've never actually called in and made use of it.
No, but I can imagine it's that plastic that you blow it up, and once it's inflated, one small prick and it's flying around the room. So I mean, you want to pay a bit more money for your sheep, probably.
What, like a balloon with a pin in it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's doing loop to loop. It's going up the stairway, sticks on the ceiling a bit. It sort of expels all the gas inside it, something like that.
Yeah. What have we got? Manager Lisa Bernard, who has worked at a private shop for 8 years, said an exterior
with a smile on her face,
probably, and there's no picture of her. Said an exterior spruce up was long overdue,
Yeah.
It was a garish blue and had been that colour forever, she said. It had that look about it because the windows had a grey line in. It looked awful. Using her art and design background and working alongside her supervisor, Layla Turner, Lisa drew up a chic new look for the store. Lisa describes the design as boudoir, with its light grey colour, painted on railings and potted plants used to mimic the townhouses opposite. The font I chose was a wedding font, marital aids. She said it was specifically targeted at couples and women, so that's quite, upbeat. Not your sleazy sort of thing that you would see in Bottom or something like that.
Right.
Lisa took the design to her bosses at the Private Shop UK chain, so it's a franchise.
Okay.
Amazingly, they agreed, she said. They said Cambridge could have a bespoke, unique shop front rather than the corporate design.
Right.
So that garish blue was the corporate design. The old style look of the shop, a lot of women said, made them feel uncomfortable coming in. Friends of mine who are professional women, social workers, lecturers said, I wouldn't be going in there because of what it looked like on the outside. Lisa is really pleased with how the shop's refreshed design has been welcomed by neighbouring businesses, residents and regular customers.
The return punters.
Yeah, keep coming back. They think it looks so much smarter, she said. People who live locally said, how long have you been here? I said 30 years. They thought we were a closed shop. One woman came in and said, I don't want to buy anything. I just want to see how amazing the shop front looks. Oh yeah, that old chestnut.
Yeah.
Lisa is passionate about her shop and cares about how its customers and the business is perceived. There's a lot of prejudice, she points out. People are very, very judgmental. Who they think people who go into sex shops are. It isn't the raincoat brigade of the 1970s. We are a retail outlet selling material for over 18s only. We are not selling any services. It's still obviously a lot of men. We've also had a lot of couples. But women will come into the shop much more and students come in here too. So, there we go.
Themed like a boudoir.
Yeah.
Okay, this seems to be a bit of a revelation. It's not to me. You know what's inspired all this, don't you?
No, please tell.
This 50 Shades stuff.
Yeah.
That's packaged that kind of scene up in a way that's exciting and palatable to the mainstream female audience, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Dave. I bet there was a spike after that. Yeah.
That's all this is. It's catering to a specific perception, I think, in in a way that it's currently popular, I think.
Yeah, and but fair play to Lisa. She's sort of grasped that and run with it and got a bit of a budget out of her bosses and transformed her shop.
I mean, is there a you said they've got some return customers?
Yeah.
What does she say when they leave? Come and come again?
Probably. Did you used to watch Bottom, Dave?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, Rick Mal and Ada Edmondson. I remember one they went into a sex shop to buy some pheromone spray for gentlemen to attract ladies, and Ada Edmondson's character Eddie just went up to the customer service desk and said, "Is this a sex shop?" And the man said yes, and he said, "I'll have a $5 worth, please."
All I'm thinking of is the dolls in Only Fools and Horses that come up from behind the drinks cabinet.
Yeah, the ones that were exploding, weren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they had to get rid of a load, didn't they, down the tip or something?
Yeah. I mean, as far as experience of sex shops goes, I would reveal that I've been to Amsterdam and I've travelled around a bit and I've seen these kind of places. They always still seem a bit cheesy, a bit kitsch, a bit, it's sort of not a place you would go with your partner. But I guess if you're with a group of friends and, fancy a laugh, you might, duck your head in. The only problem I would have with this kind of shop is it's completely closed. You can't really see what's inside. So you can understand why people are a bit more happy to go there now. It's had a lick of paint.
Okay, so you think it's the whole thing that you're not going to get seen in there?
There is that, mate. But I mean, sometimes you want to see how many people are in a shop before you go in there.
But don't you think, though, as it increases in popularity, that could be a problem, that the likelihood of running into somebody in there is going to increase?
Yeah, that's probably true. And
I mean, you could go in there next week. Oh, there's Jill from next door. There's Bobby, lives up the road. Oh, there's Mike over there. I work with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And with the internet today, isn't it better to do mail order and then you don't have to worry about, people seeing what you're buying. But I mean, some people are very sort of outward with their preferences, and they're quite happy to do that. So
yeah, it's this 50 Shades thing that's made it acceptable when it's delivered in a certain format, I think. You know what I mean? Wear a business suit, have it a little bit black and white, a little bit sort of atmospheric, and it's acceptable to smack a lady on the backside. You know, that's how it works. I don't know. I mean, it's not my thing, but apparently it floats boats for some people.
Yeah, I can imagine that down the River Cam. Yeah, people.
all these years of doing our best to give an equality in our society, and all of a sudden they want to be treated like items. I don't know. I don't understand it myself, but it has a degree of popularity, and I think it's just cashing in on that. It's just more of a mainstream acceptance, perhaps.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good luck to them. I'm sure we'll get some interesting stories coming out of that one.
Yeah, I think we will.
I mean, you've obviously picked up on this one. The place obviously has a bit of a buzz about it.
Yeah, no, I hear there's a good vibe around the shop these days.
Yeah, I haven't got anything else that's local.
No, I haven't either. So, yeah, I mean, we'll keep our ears open and our eyes open, and hopefully we get a few more for the next show.
Yeah, good. Okay, then another month and we'll do Showcase A New Hope for episode 50. Fortnight, well, I don't know what we're doing. Convention circuit's coming up soon for us, isn't it?
Yeah, next month, isn't it? We got the London Comic Con coming up in end of July. And then when's Feel the Force this year?
I think it might be August time. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. Because I think it was like August, September last year, wasn't it? So
yeah, I mean, they've had a bit of a problem that they haven't had as much, because I think the cosplayers that go there apply beforehand.
Yeah.
And they let them in usually around an hour earlier. And I guess that's so they can get the gear on, apply any makeup if they need to, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think they haven't had the applications from cosplayers that they usually do get to go there. So if there's anyone listening from the sort of relatively local cosplayer community, why don't you go along to Feel the Force Day as a cosplayer and make those numbers up? It is a charitable event. It is aimed at making conventions closer and more accessible for people with various disabilities and what have you, and restrictions upon their lives. So, there's our bit for the community. If you're a cosplayer looking for a local event, which is a great event, dirt cheap, and you'll thoroughly enjoy it, Feel the Force Day.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. And fingers crossed we'll get a nice day this year, because it did rain a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, we're not slogging it. I'm going to drive this time.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm taking my daughter anyway.
Yeah.
And she's, my wife's currently tailoring a Poison Ivy type outfit for her for the day, so she's going in cosplay.
Oh, brilliant.
So she's a bit into the old DC female characters at the moment. I think Poison Ivy's her favourite, which would be a refreshing change from all the Harlequins, won't it?
Yeah, I think so. And have you got a Batman costume yourself?
No, I'm just going as, well, I mean, I am a legend. I don't really, I'm just, like a cameo with me going.
Well, with the Hot Wampa t-shirt, I mean, it sort of trumps any Batman outfit anyway, doesn't it?
I think so, yeah. Yeah. So, cool. Perhaps we'll get some go from the shop in Cambridge.
Yeah.
Okay, then. That's it, really, for this one.
Okay. Thanks for listening.
And we'll talk to you again in a fortnight. We'll see you soon. And don't forget...
It's a trap! Oh, that's fun. Play it again.
Lord Vader,
Again.